Good evening, you are watching DBS TV. You are welcome to this first edition of the news for the week. Every year, the international community observes the 2nd of November as a day to end impunity for crimes against journalists. In Cameroon, like other countries, journalists have been known to suffer untold hardship, abuse of their rights, and even death from individuals who believe they are untouchable. Most of these crimes go unpunished, and such impunity leads to more abuses and killings, and is often a symptom of worsening conflicts and the breakdown of the law. According to the Director General of UNESCO, Audrey Azoulay, journalists are essential in preserving the fundamental rights to freedom of expression guaranteed by Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
We need to act urgently and work together as one. This is why UNESCO is launching the COVID-19 Global Education Coalition today. We have on board members of the UN family, civil society organizations, media companies, IT partners. They have eagerly stepped forward to share their talent, tools and technology to tackle content and connectivity gaps. Together we will help countries design and deploy innovative and context-sensitive solutions that leave no one behind.
Impunity damages whole societies by converging up serious human rights abuses, corruption and crime. Governments, civil society, the media and everyone concerned to uphold the rule of the law are to join in the global efforts to end impunity. Many more journalists who on a daily basis suffer from non-fatal attacks, including torture, enforced disappearances, arbitrary detention, intimidation and harassment in both conflict and non-conflict situations in Cameroon, do so perhaps silently or unknown, especially at a time when journalists are a target of what they say or write concerning the ongoing Anglophone crisis in Cameroon.
Always afraid, especially here in Cameroon, they're afraid to say what they see because they're afraid that they'll be called, they're afraid of prison, they're afraid to be threatened by the government. So it's an opportunity for us to call on the government to have eye on the job of journalists, to encourage journalists to do their job as they are supposed to do.
A shortage of classrooms, lack of toilets and of playing grounds, dilapidated and poorly equipped infrastructure. These are the words that describe a good number of schools in Fumban, West region of Cameroon, as observed by Mayor Patricia Ndam-Joya and her team while visiting the schools. This is part of a 3-day tour she embarked on as part of her municipality's agenda with regards to education. With the objective to ensure a safe and suitable learning environment for students and pupils, the team made the sad observation in 20 out of 73 schools on the list, quite contrary to expectations.
A school has to have water, electricity, restroom, normal restroom. His school has to have a playground. It's very important for students to have a library, a place to stand and to play after school.
A situation far from being the reality, which is a wish for the students, teachers and parents as well.
To see exactly the way and how our children go to school is amazing. We want intelligent school, we want inspiring schools where children are happy to go to school, where teachers are happy to teach and where parents are confident to send their children.
To help remedy the situation, Mayor Ndam-Joya and her team from the Fumban Council do not intend to stay silent, but equally call on all to help make the school environment in Fumban appropriate and conducive.
So after this town, we will just have a kind of website to be able to be in touch with all our schools, and we will send a kind of cry really for all the people who want to contribute.
other news stories, opposition candidate in Ivory Coast on Sunday called for a civil transition from incumbent President Alassane Ouattara's government a day after the election. Official results showed Ouattara won all 20 of the districts that were announced from Saturday's vote by the Electoral Commission. Results from the other 88 districts are expected to be announced later early on Monday. The president has been expected to win re-election after his opponents called for a boycott of the vote in protest of what they say is an illegal bid to hold on to power. Ouattara says the approval of a new constitution in 2016 means he is not violating a two-term limit. The dispute led to violence in the lead-up to the polls that killed more than 30 people. At least 5 more people died in clashes on election day at the central of the country, officials said on Sunday. On Saturday, protests degenerated into clashes between ethnic communities who back rival political factions in Tibisu, Ume, Yopougon, a poor Abidjan district, and in the central western town of Ngouhe, according to witnesses. The unrest has fueled fears of a repeat of the electoral violence that engulfed the country nearly a decade ago. In Senegal, President Macky Sall on Sunday appointed a new cabinet made up of 33 ministers and 4 secretaries of state, just few days after dissolving the government. In the new setup, 23 members kept their ministerial portfolio, 3 others were transferred to other departments, while 7 new members were appointed. The head of state made a big cleanup and a significant rejuvenation of the team, a representative of the presidency said. Idrissa Seck, a former prime minister and the leader of the Renwi party, who came second in the 2019 presidential election, was appointed president of the Social, Economic and Environmental Council, the second third most important institution after the National Assembly. Sall dissolved the government last Wednesday without any explanation, though Seydou Gueye says the aim is to revive the national economy. He added the new government is marked by political openness and the consensus resulting from the broad and inclusive national dialogue. The contenders for the presidential and legislative elections scheduled for December 27 in the Central African Republic began Sunday to submit their candidacies at the headquarters of the National Election Authority. Amongst the 8 candidatures already submitted, out of the 15 declared candidates, there is that of President Faustin Archange Touadéra, elected in 2016 and who will seek a second term in December, as well as Anissé Georges and Martin Ziguele, both former first ministers and bigwigs of Central African Republic's politics. The December polls raises fears of a return of violence in a country controlled 2/3 by armed groups and ravaged by civil war since a coalition of predominantly Muslim rebels, the Seleka, overthrew the regime of President François Bozizé in 2013. Coming from a majority ethnic group in the Central African Republic, Mr. Bozizé could be President Touadéra's main opponent, irrespective of the fact that his candidacy risks being invalidated by the country's electoral code, requiring that candidates to prove 1 year of residence in the country. He returns to his country last year after 7 years of exile. Last Thursday, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, called on Central Africans to go to the polls and democratically elect their leader rather than using violence and unscrupulous means to win elections. Still in Africa, Algerians on Sunday voted a referendum to revise the constitution after longtime President Bouteflika was forced to resign last year following mass protests. President Abdelmadjid Tebboune and the powerful military had presented the new constitution as a sign that they had addressed the causes of public anger that prompted mass weekly protests for more than 1 year. The government hopes it will neutralize the Hirak protest movement and will bring in a new Algeria. However, Sunday's turnout of only 23.7%, according to the election body, showed dull backing for a vote that many members of the Hirak street protest movement had decried as a sham intended to quash their movement. The referendum result is announced this Monday, November 2nd. The landlocked country of Moldova, with 3.5 million inhabitants located in Eastern Europe, on Monday, November the 2nd, revealed that Maia Sandu led the incumbent president Igor Dodon in the first round of the country's presidential elections with 35.77 to 32.87%. With an eligible population of 3.2 million, Moldova's voters had a choice between 8 candidates. While several people are favoring closer ties with the European Union, as many are still clinging to Soviet-era relations with Moscow, the groups vying for victory in the nationwide election have very different views on where they see Moldova's future. Sandu, who is standing as presidential candidate for the second time, has promised to secure more financial support from Brussels, while President Dodon, who is seeking a second term in office, has pledged to roll out a settlement next year for the breakaway Russian-speaking region of Transnistria. Nevertheless, candidates need over 50% of the vote to avoid the November 15 runoff, which would be a repeat of the 2016 election when Dodon defeated Sundu in the second round. In the U.S. presidential election, it is just few hours to the polls. With Americans galvanized by the stakes, the election has already mobilized a record number of early voters. The last-minute scramble came as a result showed Biden maintaining his overall lead, but with some slight tightening in key states, including Pennsylvania, where he leads by 4 points, and Florida, now a toss-up, according to a Real Clear Politics coverage of polls. Donald Trump on Sunday, November 1, vowed to again disprove the polls as he sprinted through the 5 swing states when his opponent Joe Biden urged supporters to take back our democracy by voting in 2 days. "We are now leading," Trump insisted before a mammoth crowd of supporters in Washington Township, Michigan, citing that he is leading in Florida and Georgia. Having spent a whole day in Pennsylvania, the former Vice President Joe Biden had a drive-in rally in Philadelphia where he said, "In 2 days, we can put an end to a presidency that has divided this nation." However, a record of 93 million early votes have already been cast, according to the nonpartisan U.S. Elections Project, while Democrats are hoping to avoid a repeat of 2016, when votes in just 3 states swung the election. To end this edition of the news, World Health Organization Chief Tedros Adhanom has self-quarantined after coming in contact with some people who tested positive for coronavirus. In a tweet last Sunday, he added that he was symptom-free and feeling well, but will self-quarantine over the coming days in line with WHO protocols and work from home, Tedros said. The 55-year-old former Ethiopian foreign minister has been at the forefront of the United Nations Health Agency's efforts to battle the pandemic. Last month, he criticized world leaders who have undermined scientists during the pandemic. He stressed it is critically important that we all comply with health guidance. The World Health Organization urges all individuals to be careful about hand washing, wearing masks, and keeping a distance, and calls on authorities to find, isolate, test and care for people with COVID-19, then trace and quarantine their contacts. Tedros' comments come as several European nations, including Switzerland, where the WHO has its headquarters, turned back the clocks to the spring with fresh lockdowns and restrictions aimed at halting the soaring cases and deaths of coronavirus. That was it for this first edition of The Week. Thanks for watching. Don't go away. Programs continue on DBS TV. See you tomorrow, same time, God willing. Goodbye.